Hey kids, this is Ivan. How you doing? Well, what do we talk about now? Where do we go from here? Same old G had his little Holy Trinity series of videos where he talked about, the three main topics we tend to talk about, which is talk to your players, play the right system, play the right game, and don't be a jerk. And I'm really a big fan of Null Inquisitor's, fourth one, which same old G kind of washes into talk to your players, but I don't, which is play with the right people. But now what do we talk about? Because I think what the topic, at least for a few of us, has been kind of gravitating towards now is like, all right, so maybe we've decided that there's a right and a wrong way to play. Whether or not you agree with that, at this point, wasn't there a better way to play? And how about we talk about that? And what do we mean by a better way to play? What do I mean? What am I talking about? And this is something I think it's just kind of an interesting road to go down. I mean, certainly a lot of us have talked about, okay, well, here's the the best way to do this, or whatever tips or tricks or experience, sharing our experience. But where do we want to go from that? Where do I want to go from that in terms of talking about this? And I'm not really sure. This is just kind of like an introductory foray into that subject. I can tell you from personal experience, I've had those moments where I've realized that I had room for improvement. To put it mildly, and as a musician, sometimes I'll go and see somebody play, and I am no virtuoso. I played for a long time, but there are people that have the gift or have certainly practiced more than I have. So I'll go see Victor Wooten, and I'm not sure, do I need to sell my bass now, or should I practice some more? But sometimes you get exposed to somebody who is really good at what you do, and you realize that hey, I'd like to be able to do that a little bit better. So I've been in situations where I've had the privilege of playing with some game masters, and they just kind of blew me away. I'm like, wow, that was really cool. Some of it sure might be raw talent. Where I got to play with this guy Handy's Haversack a couple of years ago. I've talked about this a couple of times, Con, a couple of years ago, where I was like, wow, that was he just had a gift for bringing the game right there in the moment, and it just didn't miss a beat no matter what happened. And yeah, sure, some of that's raw talent. But I know some of that is also skill, and that's practice skill, and that's something you just have to do over and over again. And my friend Brian Scavera, who lives locally, another great game master, and that's through hours and hours of actually doing this, and he's able to kind of bring people into the game that same way. So that's one area for improvement. I mean, there's certainly more. Those are things that are hard to pin down, exactly, what you need to how exactly you go about doing that. So that's kind of fuel for discussion. There are other things that are easier where I've run a session. I'm talking about on the game master side of the screen, so to speak, where I realized hey, what, I just did not flow when it came down to task resolution, or say we got involved in a combat or something, and I realized what, I wasn't really keeping good track of. I did stop a couple times. I missed where initiative was or something. I realized, okay, well, I need to improve on that. Or I found myself in positions where I could have prepped better. In one area, and so those things where you kind of take notes afterwards and say, yep, I definitely messed that up. So those are places where it's easy to kind of put our fingers on and say, yeah, I could improve here. There's other ones that are a little bit less tangible, and you're not quite sure where you need to improve. There's something there, but you're not I don't know if anybody can relate. And by the same token, I've certainly been exposed to other players, where I've found their creativity or the way they've handled situations, really inspiring. I played with a couple guys that were just incredibly good at, I guess political intrigue would be one way to put it, or just getting under the hood in terms of what was going on socially in the area or politically, and just diving right into it. And these are things that maybe weren't always completely obvious to me. Where they were playing outside the box entirely, and I was still sitting there, in whatever system it was. And my first instinct was to play within the confines of the rules. Okay, well, my character does this. This is his shtick, via class, or whatever. Or, I got a little more task-oriented, and they were going off in this other direction. I'm like, I never thought of that. So I followed them. And sometimes you learn by doing. I think a lot of us learn by doing. At least I do, to a large degree. There's only so much that I can actually read and theorize about before I have to get my hands dirty. So, yeah, what do you want to talk about? What should I talk about? What should we do in terms of getting better? Where is there room for improvement? Personally, and as a community. What about the types of games we write? And I haven't even touched the whole social contract thing, and how do we get better in terms of treating each other politely? There was an interesting thread on the Facebook Brigade page just recently about alcohol at the table, yes or no, and there was some social contract stuff going on in there and some politeness, one way or the other. And I'm not pointing fingers either way. I'm just saying, what should we talk about in terms of doing this better? What do you think?